It's so nice to see so many beautiful faces early this morning. Thank you for coming out as we celebrate Women's History Month our way. So before we get started, I want to make sure that everybody is sitting amongst friends because we are all friends today. So if you'll take about 2 minutes to make sure you introduce yourself to your seatmates, the ones at your table, so that everyone can learn or get to meet someone new before leaving here today. And then we'll start after you all do that for 2 minutes.
We've already I love it.
This is great. I'm happy that we did that exercise because I saw some people who really didn't know each other and they were talking, so that's always a win. So I just want to thank you all for being here. There will be others that come in and join us. We did have only 75 seats and they were claimed on the first day. We have some openings, so if you have a seat, maybe you see somebody come in, just tell them you have some room at your table. So good morning, everyone. March is Women's History Month. It's a time to honor all the trailblazers who fought for the rights and opportunities that we enjoy today. Just a century ago, women were fighting for the right to vote, and in the 1940s, they stepped into the workforce during World War II, but were expected to go right back home afterwards. By the 1960s and the 70s, women were breaking barriers in law, medicine, and politics, though often met with resistance. Today, in the 2020s, we don't have to fight to get an education because of the pioneers in women's history already did that work for us. We stand on their shoulders, and because of them, we now shape industries, lead businesses, and make history in our own right. The remarkable women before you today, all on this panel, were strategically chosen to be here because of their, not just because of their titles, but also because of their strength, resilience, and their impact. They lead in journalism, healthcare, finance, law, and business. Fields where leadership comes with high expectations and at times intense insecurity and scrutiny. Some manage multi-million-dollar establishments and budgets. Others make life-changing judicial decisions, and all of them are shaping the future for women everywhere, especially right here in Middle Georgia. These women, all 5 of them, they inspire me personally. They encourage me to be a better person, a better leader, and a better friend. Today, they are here to share their journeys, their triumphs, the challenges, and the moments that shaped them into the wonderful women they are right now. This is a space for truth, empowerment, and sisterhood. So welcome to the 2025 Empower Her panel. We will be discussing some of our tough issues, share about our journeys, and overall, this is a safe haven for women. And you will have your chance to ask her own questions so that you can leave with some new knowledge or new inspiration or encouragement. So without further ado, we will go ahead and I'll do my very condensed version of introducing each of them to you all. Let me get to my intro. So we have first, and I'm going to go in order from the far end. First, we have Ms. Verda Colvin. She is a Supreme Court Justice appointed by Governor Kemp, and she previously held a position as appellate court judge, and she's involved in many nonprofits and organizations throughout our community. So let's give it up for Justice Verda Colvin. Next, we have Dr. Anjali Patel Nagar, I said it right. She is a family medicine physician, educator, and leader in medical training, and I'm gonna mess this up, osteopathic family medicine.
Got it.
She's the osteopathic family medicine director and a faculty member of House and Healthcare. Let's give it up for her. Dr. Nagar. And next we have Ms. Christina O'Brien. She is the president and CEO of Robbins Financial Credit Union, the second largest credit union in Georgia. So let's give it up for her. Next we have Ms. Monica Diaz-Meek. She is a lead anchor at 41 NBC for midday and early evening newscasts, and she's a strong advocate for motherhood and empowerment in women. So give it up for her. And now we come to Ms. Jessica Walden, who is the president and CEO of Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce, and she is a community champion for Macon Biv and other surrounding businesses and throughout Georgia. So this is our esteemed panel for today, and these are all accomplished women leaders. So we're gonna have about an hour of panel, maybe less. We're trying to we'll be done within an hour and a half. So once the panel is complete, then you all will be able to ask some questions if you'd like to. Some of the panelists, these are all boss ladies, so they may have to leave and go do their bossing, which is fine. And some of you may have to as well. So that's why I want to make sure we're very clear. If you see someone get up after the panel, it's because they got to do what they got to do. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and start with our questions. And this is our boss. I call this our boss lady panelists. So question number one. We have one mic. We're supposed to have 3 mics. Technical issues, you know how that goes. So we're going to be sharing, okay? And I'm not going to call anybody out like so-and-so. Because if I did that, you would have already known. But this is more of going with the flow, more intimate conversation. We don't want any scripted answers unless you just already know your answers for certain things. So that's what we're trying to do. Be really just be real today, because this is about sisterhood. Okay, so the first question is about breaking barriers. To reach this level in your career, you may have faced negativity from naysayers. Right off the bat, we're talking about the haters, straight out. Can you share a moment when someone doubted you and how you pushed through?
Since I have the mic, I guess I'll start. Part of that is just being able to block out some of that, right? You're always going to hear it. You've heard it your entire life, no matter if it was at school, if it was at work, you've heard some of that. And just don't let anybody derail what you know your path to be. I'm in an industry where there are a lot of women that work up to a certain level. And then when you get at an executive level, that flips. And it's primarily men that work at that level. And so, you can get here, but then your opportunities for getting higher are then limited. And so just don't ever lose sight of what's important to you, your journey, what you need to do to be successful, and block out as much of that. Don't let them take your sunshine.
Very good. I was gonna pass the mic to whoever wants to go next.
Yeah, so I was born and raised with one hand. I had amniotic band syndrome. I used to tell women, or not women, everyone to sharpen it off, but my mom told me to stop doing that. So I was just born like that. So I went to medical school, and when you transition from your second year of medical school to your third, you have to learn how to intubate, you have to beat you around the floors, taking care of patients. And there was an anesthesiologist that I was working with, and he said, you cannot intubate. You have one hand, you need two hands to intubate. That was the first time in a while someone's told me, no, you can't do something. So obviously, in an Anjali manner, I went to the simulation lab and practiced intubating with one hand, figured out a strategy that worked for me, and went back. I told them I can intubate, I just need a type of instrument called a gyroscope, and it's like a video where you can actually see where you're going, and I think that day I intubated 10 patients. Using that to motivate you is definitely a strategy I use and recommend.
I'll tell you about an experience I had when I first applied for a judgeship. So I had been nominated for the judgeship, and I was going before the judicial nominating committee for them to interview me to see if I would pass to go through the next stage to meet the governor. And so someone told me, you need to call this judge and talk to him because he's very well respected. He will be able to help you through this process. And so I called him and told him who I was and what I was doing. And he said, well, you won't get it, but just go blah, 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 blah. And I thought, oh my God, who says that? But I will say this, sometimes when things like that happen, I don't think that's because we're women. I just think people are negative and they put a cloud over your sunshine. And so you just have to move past it. And my thought was, what God has for me is for me. And so I can't worry about what someone says. I just have to move forward. And I think we have to remember that. What is for you is for you. Regardless of what has happened, regardless of statistics, if it is meant for you, it is yours.
So, going in school, I went to school in Kansas, and it's pretty 50-50 split between men and women in news. But I remember having college professors talk to me and say, your upward mobility would just be a little slower as a woman. And I was really confused by that a lot of times. It's like, well, at some point you're gonna go and stop working because you'll be a mom, or, you'll wanna be a stay-at-home mom and do X, Y, Z. And so I was constantly hearing this. Started out in Texas for my first news job. And I remember as soon as I had my son, the comment I got from my news director was, so you're not gonna come back, right? And I looked and I was like, no. And he's like, well, your husband wants you to stay home, right? No, my husband encourages me to work, like I also want to work. Well, then I had my daughter, and the comment was, okay, now you're really gonna be a stay-at-home mom, right? And just constant comments and constant, this isn't a place for moms to be, this is a place for men to move. And so I worked at a station where I saw men move up faster than women, and so it was constantly advocating for myself, saying, hey, I am qualified, hey, I am talented. And even to this day, I've been blessed with the opportunity here in Middle Georgia that I have a boss that sees that, but you still hear those comments, oh, so if you have another kid, what are you gonna do? You're gonna stay home. And it seems as if we're in this spot where we have a lot of people, naysayers per se, putting you in this box where, okay, if you want to have children, you can't have a career. And that has been discouraging, but also you use it as fuel to keep fighting, to show I can be a great mom, a great wife, and a great employee, and still do better than these men by me. And so, not that you hate someone else and you want to be ugly, but you have to prove 10 times more, I can do this every single day. And so, there's been a lot of obstacles, but it's encouraging to keep fighting.
So I think you hear a recurring theme here. There's no better way to battle negativity than just proving them wrong. That is the most satisfying feeling in the world when you have that kind of criticism. And I think with any of us here in these public positions, we have to be ready. I mean, it's going to happen whether we hear it or we don't. And I learned pretty early on that criticism doesn't say anything about you. It tells you about the person giving it. I mean, it's their opinion, it's their preferences. I can't control a lot of that. So kind of being able to reframe some of that is always helpful. And with my role at the chamber, I was the candidate. I was the one who clearly sailed through the interviews and was the one who was born and raised in Macon and loved this community with all my heart, but there was definitely some doubt on where politics would play a role in this. And I put myself out there a few years ago and run for office, and when you run for office, you often have to check a party box. And that continued to follow me through the process where came down to the point with, two men putting me in a room and grilling me like interrogation style about, can you leave your politics at the door with this? And I said, when it comes to our communities, we're not Democrats or Republicans, we're Macon, we're Houston County. The pothole does not care, right? And, and it's frustrating because I have male counterparts who I know their politics and it doesn't seem to get in their way. But as a woman who had put herself out there, I had exposed myself to that. And again, it's been really satisfying to prove that wrong. And I mean, I look at this mayor and I think nobody cared which box she was checking when she went to run and became the trailblazer that she was in politics. So we can do that, right?
Thank you for all those amazing answers. And the reason why we do this panel, well, I chose to do this panel, I've done it, it's my second time, first time was last year, is because when you are a woman leading in your career fields or making it to whatever level you've set for yourself or striving for that, you're gonna meet challenges. Some of them may be because you're a woman, some of them may be because women face different obstacles than men sometimes, and some of them may just be because you are you. But whatever it is, when we come together and share our stories, it empowers us, it makes us stronger, and then you know it's not just me. So you gain courage by hearing other people's stories. At least I do. And I remember one day, one of the best days I can remember since I got in this position, when I came in office, it was a women leadership team at Robbins Air Force Base. And I was talking to Chairman Stoneker, and he told me, he was a chairman of Houston County Board of Commissioners at that time, and he told me I need to go and meet with these women leaders. And I said, okay, wonderful. And I went and I sat at the table, and it was all women, and then it was me, and I was just fangirling hard, because I love the military, I love military members, I've always wanted to serve myself. And to see these women making it to general, commanders, colonels, that just really, really hit me in a very positive way. And I sat there and I said, how do you guys get through the different challenges that they shared with me at that table? And their answer was, honestly, we text each other. That's what they said. She said, we text each other and we encourage each other. And all they have to say is, and I remember Colonel Dro said this, I'm having one of those days. And then the lady leaders, they all text each other back, giving encouraging words. And that was enough to keep them going. And sometimes you feel like you're by yourself, depending on what your career field is or what your story is. But if we come together, we really do encourage and inspire each other so you feel a little bit stronger. So my goal is that everybody feels a little bit stronger when they leave here, a little more empowered and encouraged to do whatever it is that you've set out to do in your life and in your careers, because I know that I will take that away when I leave here today. So the second question is about overcoming self-doubt. Okay, so we've talked about external challenges with the naysayers. Now let's talk about the internal and how we can be our greatest critic, our own enemy. So have you ever doubted your own ability to do or achieve your goal? And if so, how did you overcome it? And this is a question that if you want to answer, you can. If you don't, you have other questions you can come to. So this is a no pressure zone.
Well, we all have an inner critic, and so I would say, how do you overcome doubt? And I think we all get these, what I call fraudy feelings every day sometimes, and there's a point where you really have to just hush your inner critic. For me, that inner critic's probably a 7-year-old kid growing up in Macon, Georgia, who didn't think that she had a role to play or a reason to be there, and I just have to tell her to hush. There's the other side of you that's your inner mentor, and I encourage anyone to do this, that, you know, think about who you are 20 years from now. Like, go forward 20 years, have a little meditation time with yourself and tap into that person 20 years from now. And like, what is she really worried about? Like, that's your goal. That's your North Star. And when I think about that person and that person's confidence and what really matters, like where she is and looking back to, it really does help give you the confidence to break through your own noise and to just go for it. And to learn that I mean, what's that great quote of like, you know, win or lose, at least we try. It's shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you land among the stars. Like, something great's going to come out of it, even if you feel like you came short of it. So, I think that that's just a daily practice more so than a specific example.
I think for me, I think my inner voice is always, am I too much? And that comes in motherhood and working and kind of all aspects of life. I feel like as a little girl, it was always, you know, if I said something quick-witted or kind of fast response, it was always, oh, she's spicy, she's a Latina, look at this. And it was like these little, oh, she's fiery. And you start hearing that at a young age, and you really do, and it's just constant critics. As I got older, it was more of that, you know, am I too much because I speak my mind, even though if it was someone else, maybe there's advocating for themselves, maybe me saying this is too much. If I tell someone directly what I want, you know, is that acting too much when quite literally it's just, I'm telling you what needs to be done, or just a simple statement at that. And so I think my inner critic has always been, am I too much for others? And so that's a hard thing to reflect on, I think, especially as a minority. There's a lot of times where it's like, am I saying too much? Am I coming off too strong? Am I making this person overwhelmed by just speaking sometimes? And so that has been a lot of thinking, you know, no, I am not too much. I have a God who made me the way I am, and he has made me perfectly in his image. And so I think standing firm in my faith and as a mother has helped me say, like, no, I am not too much, but also raising a little girl now, I hear comments, you know, oh, she's gonna be a Spitfire, oh, she's fiery, and she's 1.5. The thing is, like, we are telling little girls at an early age that when they say no or when they act this way, you know, men come up to, oh, she's so cute, hey, trying to touch her. No, you can say no, you can say and have a personality. And so I think I have gone through that my whole life, and now seeing at the young age that my daughter is, already those comments is really a hard cycle to break, but also understanding that we're not too much. It's okay to speak our mind. We're in 2025, we're no longer needing to be silenced. We were never needed before, but now I encourage women to say, hey, speak up, and who cares if they think you're too much? Maybe they're not enough. And so that's just something that I've processed.
There's nothing wrong with being spicy. So that's really cool. I also grew up in a family where my mom was Spanish, and so I totally get the Latin mothers don't play. And so you just say what you say, and you have to get thick skin, right? And so as a woman, that doesn't always play well. But for me in particular, when I was, when the opportunity presented itself for the CEO position, you know, I really had some doubt, and I was like, wow, you know, there's, you know, 550 employees that are going to be relying on me to make the right decisions. There's 270,000 members that are relying on me to make the right decisions. And I sat down with somebody that I had worked with for a long time, who I didn't realize at the time was pushing me harder than I saw them push anybody else, but for a reason. And so, you know, I'm a realist, be real with me. So if you think I'm ready, tell me. If you don't think I'm ready, tell me. And he looked right in my eyes and said, I don't know why you're doubting yourself. You have prepared for this your entire life. And so that was really cool, is to have somebody kind of confirm what I had in my own mind as far as self-doubt. And, you know, I have also had to figure out how to not always say the first thing that comes to mind. But there's nothing wrong with being honest, and I think we miss that a lot, you know, that we're afraid to be honest. But find somebody and surround yourself with people that will celebrate who you are, will encourage you when you can't encourage yourself.
for me, it's, so my husband's in the military, he's active duty. And when we were stationed in Enid, Oklahoma, which is like Timbuktu, Oklahoma, I say, like really middle of nowhere, I was driving an hour and a half to Oklahoma City every day, back and forth, so about 3 hours a day, 10-hour days with patients, and then would have to come home, usually cook, you know, and then my husband would come home from his training. We would eat and go to bed, and it was every single day, and I was like, can I do this? Like, how can I keep this up? At that time, he wanted to be an Air Force pilot, so I went to a meeting, and the colonel's wife was saying, you know, as a spouse, especially as a pilot spouse, you will have to create flashcards for them, you'll have to help with meals, like, they rely on you a lot, and I was like, I don't even have time to make flashcards for myself. I just kind of listen to Beyonce on the way to work and like keep myself awake and like, you know, put instant hot pasta in there and like, how can I even make flashcards for you? So I relied on my friends a lot, who are also very supportive, and they were like, if anyone can do it, Anjali, you can do this. Like, you can have kids. If you want to have kids, you can put dinner on the table. You can freaking make an Indian meal, like, still go to work, take care of your patients, you know, do all of it. So just supporting, having that supportive family and friends and people you look up to, I think is huge when you're having that internal doubt. Because I'm sure all of us have had that at one point, but just relying on those people, making sure those true friends are there for you.
Said everything I would say. I think we all have those internal doubts, no matter how old we get, no matter where we are in our career. That's just normal. You know, as I was sitting here, I'm thinking, I bet every human being has internal doubts, but as women especially, because we're still trying to break glass ceilings. And so what do I do with those internal doubts? Number one, I try to check myself. Like, okay, Verda, is this real or is this you just tripping? Come on. And then secondly, for me, I'm very spiritual, like someone else referenced to, and I just believe what God has for you, He has for you, and that who told you, and I would say this to myself, who told you you couldn't? Who said that with any authority to make you think you can't? And you can never answer that question, because the only one who has authority is really, you know, the supreme being. And so if you hadn't gotten a word from that source that you can't, then you can. And so we're our own biggest critic, and I recognize that, and so that helps me stay intact with myself. And I really don't listen to others around me about me. They don't know me. They know what they think they know, but they don't know me. And the only person who really knows me is me. And so the question becomes, what do I think I'm capable of doing? And once I think it, my thought is all the time, and I tell my kids, me and God are a majority, so we don't need to.
I love all that feedback. We got some sound bites I might borrow from my friends up here. But that brings me to my campaign that I ran in 2021. Of course, I'm running another one this year, but I remember I was like, literally, a group of people asked me to run for mayor. I was planning to run for council, and I said, and I quote, there is no way this black girl can be elected mayor in Warner Robins. Maybe down the road, after I'm on council and I prove myself, then I can do that. But you need to ask one of them, which were all men. And I said that to myself, and I kept that with me for months and months and months. Literally about 6 months of people trying to convince me. And then there was this one time I had this come to Jesus moment, and it was a group of pastors, because a lot of pastors supported me from day one, all different ethnicities and backgrounds and beliefs. And I said, well, what is it that they see in me that I don't see in myself? Literally, that's what I said. And it really made me get emotional, because all these men were looking at me, who I looked up to, telling me that I could do something that deep in my heart, I thought I had no chance of doing. So I talked to my parents and I said, I don't know why this has come to be, because, I said it again, this black girl cannot be mayor of Warner Robins. But they see something in me. So now I owe myself a chance to see if I actually had it. So I went on my journey and I realized God can do exceedingly and abundantly more than you can ever ask or think. Ephesians 3:20. And that verse alone has brought me so far in this career. In my career as an attorney, because I'm a licensed attorney, I never felt any doubt for a woman to do anything, period. Until I got into this arena, that's when things hit different. It really did hit different. If you look at the top 10 largest cities, and then we're 11, it's all that I'm in. I am the sole female that's at that level. And I'm a strong mayor, so I'm a full-time mayor. So when you look at that, it means it's different for women. Some places, everyone's at an even playing field. You don't have those challenges. In other places, you do. This one is one that you have challenges, trust me. I live it regularly. But I had to check myself. And I had to lean on my foundation, which is a solid rock I stand upon, and realize that God talks to you through people too. Amen. And if they saw something in me, I gotta wonder why I didn't see that in me. So I had to change my mindset, change my perspective, and believe in myself. And I know that if it is for me, then it's for me. And that's why I got this position, and that's why I'm gonna get it again this year. But your mental, what you think about yourself is so important. You can be your greatest barrier. You may be afraid to try something because you think you can't. You gotta remove that. I know my executive assistant, Christy, I tell her all the time, just do it, go for it, go for it. And then she was on the paper in Houston Home Journal. I was gonna say Houston Healthcare, sorry. Houston Home Journal. But her businesses are doing great. She just needed to push and encouragement from a friend. So don't be afraid to encourage a friend, because you never know. You may actually be the thing that takes them to the level they're trying to go. All right, empowerment through challenges. This panel is about lifting each other up. That's what we're doing today. Can you share a time when you needed encouragement, especially in facing challenges unique to women in your field? So this question may not be for everyone. Some of you may say, well, you may feel like you already answered it, or you may feel like it doesn't apply to your fields. But if it does apply, I'm asking you to answer. Can you share a time you needed encouragement, especially when dealing with a unique barrier or challenge that women face in your field?
So I started my judicial career in Macon, Superior Court, and went to the Court of Appeals and then Supreme Court. And so when I was going before all of these, Governor Deal was the first governor who appointed me, then Governor Kemp appointed me to the last two positions. At the time, there were not many minorities that were appointed, particularly by Governor Deal when I was appointed to Superior Court, and definitely not a lot of females. And then with Governor Kemp, at that point, there had never been a Republican governor who had appointed an African-American female. And so, all of those things were rolling around. But the thing about it, and I will say this to all women, I think sometimes, and you all may disagree with me, but I think sometimes we have to not focus on race or who we are as a gender. Because I think sometimes when we focus on that, it brings on those doubts, because we look at statistical data, which I can't stand statistics, because I think that's a way to make people feel less than, feel like they're incapable. But when we focus on those, sometimes we take away the thing that makes us special, that makes us uniquely qualified to step into a place and a space and to do some things that no one else has done. And so I didn't really think about those things, but I was lucky enough to have, or blessed enough, I guess I should say, to have people who, like you said, Mayor, that saw something in me that didn't even look like me. White, Caucasian men, middle-aged men who may have had a different political philosophy, everything, who said, I want to see you get there. But I think about it now, why did they invest in me coming from all of these different arenas? I think it's because I never had a chip on my shoulder. I never did anything to insinuate because I'm a woman or because I'm African American, somehow I needed something extra from the system to make it. My thought was, I'm gonna be excellent. And excellence transcends all of that. And that's what I tell people all the time, and I will tell each of you all. I think that's the challenge that we have and that I've learned to take on. Just be excellent. Because at the end of the day, no matter what it looks like, everybody wants excellence on their team. And they don't really care what it looks like as long as you make them look good. And that's why I think Republican governors were willing to appoint me, because people who they know, their friends, said, she's a good one. Regardless of what she looks like, regardless of what her views may be politically, she's gonna do the job, and she's gonna do the job right. And so I just think that's important, and I want to say that to us, because, you know, we have to empower each other as women, clap for each other as we climb, but don't allow the fact that we're women or we're minorities or any of that, differently able, any of that, to make us think that somehow those attributes prevent us from climbing the ladder, that whatever ladder we choose, because we're gonna be excellent, and everybody wants somebody who's excellent.
That's tough to follow. but I really just will echo what you said, because you know, I'm the first CEO in the 70-year history of our credit union, which is pretty exciting, right? And I thought that was a really big deal. It's really cool, and you know, it went out all in the press releases. And then I had another female CEO reach out to me and say, you know, congratulations, that's exciting, you know. And I said, give me some advice as a fellow female CEO. And she said to me, and I'll never forget these words, she said, you are a CEO that just so happens to be female. Don't let anybody qualify your accomplishments in your role with the fact that you are female. And that was pretty powerful to me. I've never run on the I'm a woman platform. I absolutely believe that just be the best version of you. Just be great all the time. And the people that need to recognize that, they'll see it and you'll be rewarded for it. So it wasn't like, wow, look at me, I'm a woman CEO, but it was just those powerful words that helped me realize I didn't get this job because I was the first female CEO in the history of our credit union. I got this job because 9 board members felt like I was the most qualified. And in my particular situation, for the first time in the 70-year history of our credit union, they decided to do an exterior search for the candidate. And I thought, well, gosh, what does that say about me? You know, I'm sitting in the number 2 position. They must not think that I'm worthy. And they needed that in order to, I guess, feel good about their decision, which was difficult for me for a long time to go, wow, what did I miss in my career in showing them what I was able to bring to the table that they felt that they needed to hire somebody else, you know, to tell them how great I was. But I just, to your point, just be great. Just be great.
That's awesome. I love the words that you all stated, and it's right. You lean into being feminine, but don't use it as a barrier or a weakness yourself. A lot of us don't get positions because we are women. We get it because we deserve it. But we happen to be women. I have a shirt that actually says something like that. You get it, you just happen to be a woman, but because you are a woman, sometimes you do face other challenges and barriers. So, yeah, lean into it, but don't use it as a negative thing, even though the people looking at you may. All right, so now we're going to talk about, I was going to talk about facing gender bias, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to skip that one because we kind of hit on that already. We're going to go to strength versus intimidation, which I think this is a good one we can all relate to. Women are often encouraged to be strong, yet when we are, we're sometimes labeled as intimidating. Have you ever felt the need to adjust how you present yourself in order to overcome that stereotype? I see so many smiles in the audience. This is going to be really good, and I can't wait to hear what the panel has to say.
You know, yes, I've been told before, I had no idea somebody thought I was intimidating to ask me something, or, my hairdresser one time said, he goes, yeah, they just said that you were just too intimidating, and I was like, what did you tell him? And he said, I said, sometimes you can be. I was like, it's the hair, isn't it? It's your fault. So, I think that as women, we do go out of our way to personally connect with who we're working with and who our audience is, and to me, we do that through our stories, and we're doing it right now. I mean, this is a great example, being able to share our own stories. Each of us has a really a personal and profound and impactful story to tell. And that is in all of us. Sometimes we have to work to get it out and to share it and to realize it's your, again, that compass for you. So I think being able to, and that's maybe one of our superpowers actually, is yes, it can be an Achilles heel, and yes, we can be so easily labeled as intimidating or severe, or it's just easier to do that. But really our superpower is that women are able to get to a much deeper personal level with each other and whoever we're working with, because we care, but we also strive for that excellence, and we see the excellence in each other that enables us to connect. So I would just say our stories matter in these situations in order to at least help you enter the room and know that your story belongs there.
For me, I was raised in a home where I was always told as a woman to speak my mind, and so from childhood it has always been, okay, what do you have to say? What do you have to say? Raised with people who encouraged me to be vocal about what I wanted, who I was, and what I was always advocating for. In high school, I knew that I really wanted to go into journalism and news. I grew up in the Dallas area, and absolutely no one had the last name Diaz attached. No one looked like me, no one spoke like what I heard in my house, and I just didn't have that. And so I knew what I wanted, I was determined, I had parents that supported that, backed that up, and told me life is going to be hard. The way to combat that is get your education. And so I was always raised with, no one can take it away from me. My parents did not have college degrees. I mean, they were city kids. My dad, being from Puerto Rican background, always was grinding it out. And so I was always told as a woman, it's okay to speak your mind, speak your mind, speak your mind. Well, then I went to school in Kansas. Anyone ever been to Kansas? Don't go. It's a little different. It's quiet. Women are conservative. Women are quiet. They are silenced. They are told, hey, keep it down. Okay? So that is what I went into a world of, being raised up to speak your mind, and then went into a place where, no, quiet down. So then, going into this field, I, get into news. I'm thrilled. I love it. Vocal, there we go. Here's the problem with that. As a woman, when you're vocal and you say what you want, you are labeled as what word we're labeled as women. You're told to be quiet. You're told you're too much. You're told you're rude. You're direct. That comes off a little aggressive. Right, we have all heard those words. And so I think in the midst of being confident and raised that way, to speak my mind, we have been put in these boxes as women. We're told, hey, you need to not take it down a notch. And so I really do encourage us as women, when we're comparing ourselves to our counterparts, sometimes we feel this need to tone it down and to be quiet, when in matter of fact, you're simply just saying, not even anything offensive, you're just saying, matter of fact, this is what needs to happen. If someone else were to say that, it would be totally fine. But as a woman, when you say what you want, you speak your mind, you hear those comments, or, oh, it's time of the month, you know how she is, she's emotional. I can do my job just as fine. I don't care what time of the month it is. Whether I've had no sleep or a full 10 hours of sleep. Whether I have no kids, whether I have 10 kids. It doesn't matter where you're at. You can still do your job, but society has labeled us as too much. And so I think now more than ever, as women, we have to unite and support each other. rather than tear each other down. I worked in a spot when I was in Texas, and there was almost 16 of us women, and I would have them come over every single week. We'd watch The Bachelor, we would cook, we would drink wine, and it was a safe space of women to encourage each other and build each other up. And so I really do encourage you, find out who your women are, whether that's at work, whether that's at church, whatever that group may be, and build each other up, because in a world that is going to tear us down, with a government that wants to tear us down as women, you have to speak your mind, and you have to have people to support you.
Obviously, I'm direct, probably all of us on this panel, and have been labeled all of those words. And so it took me a long time to figure out that it is okay to tailor my communication style to those individuals that I'm around, right? I'm not giving up who I am. I'm not changing my thoughts. I'm not changing, the meaning of what I'm saying. But in certain environments, as a woman, as a strong, direct woman, you are not taken seriously, or your opinions, your thoughts are discounted if you come across a certain way. And so, I do this sometimes because these have lots of emotion, and so sometimes in a room I have to do this because these are Latin arms. I got these from my mom. And so it's okay to be like, okay, if I want them to understand my message, I'm going to have to deliver it in a way that they can accept it. And so that means maybe I'm going to have to be a little less direct. Maybe I will have to soften the words that I was going to use, but I'm not going to change the core of my message, and I'm not going to change who I am. And I think that's the difference, is being okay saying, I want to communicate with you, but I also want to connect with you. So I have to understand what it's going to take for you to hear my message. And sometimes that does absolutely mean delivering it a little differently than I would with you, because you're going to get me if I don't use all the fluffy words, but some people aren't going to get me. It's still difficult for me to use a lot of fluffy words, but every now and again I try to throw one in, So, but it is okay to cater your communication style as long as you don't lose who you are in your message.
So when I started as faculty at Houston Healthcare at the Family Medicine Residency Program, I walked in the first day and this nurse was like, hey, there's a little girl at the front. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'm looking for the director's office. And she's like, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm one of the family medicine faculty. I'm one of the attending. She's like, oh my goodness. And then went to my office, and some of the residents who are doctors in training, they come to my office and talk to me about their patients. And when they first met me, they were like, oh, this nice, soft-spoken Indian doctor, like I'm gonna get away with a lot of stuff. And oh man, things changed after that. They walked into my office, and at first I was myself, very direct, like my mom. Indians are the same way as Latinas. They just say it how it is. And so I was just saying it how it was. And the director in the office 2 doors down was like, hey, Dr. Nagar, I can hear you from down here. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And she's like, okay, let's try to figure out how to communicate, because it was my first role as a teacher and as a faculty member, how to communicate in a way that is altered for different residents. Because some people can take feedback very well, some people need it a little bit more softer. So I worked with her and I did my own research, and now I learned that I can still conduct the same feedback by just staring at them. Just stare at them until they just look at you and they're like, they don't have words. And then you still stare at them, you just keep staring at them. Stare at them until they literally open their laptop and figure out what they need to do for these patients. Because I tell them, the reason I'm so passionate is because we have patients here. This could be my mom, this could be my dad, this could be my grandmother, this could be your grandmother. So why should I not be as vocal or communicative with you as you would want to be for your family member? So the stairs work, guys.
For your kids.
I heard it was,
Yeah, it works on kids too.
Well, I agree with the doctor and Christina. I was going to say, you have to read the room. I mean, that's anyone who's savvy with any kind of ability to navigate a career learns how to read the room. And you do what's appropriate based upon reading the room. And so I'm gonna do a little bit different than what the mayor said. I'm gonna add some gender bias in here to say what I was taught about reading the room at a very early age in my career. So I was practicing in North Carolina at a firm, and they had given me a case to handle with a stockbroker who had been accused of stealing millions of dollars from an older couple. And so we were going before the stockbrokers board to determine whether or not his license would remain intact and what would happen. So, you know, he didn't really want me to represent him. He was very aloof. But we went in, I did what I do, and we walked out waiting for the decision. And then out comes a gentleman, older white gentleman, beautiful, white hair, looked like he had walked out of money. It's just wonderful. And he stuck out his hand, he said, "Miss Andrews," that was my maiden name, "your performance was outstanding. You're a credit to your race and your gender." I'm like 24, 25, maybe a year or two out of law school, and I'm like, what in the world? So I go back to the firm, I tell the first name partner who had hired me, I was like, "You won't believe what happened." He's like, "Well, what was the result?" I was like, "Well, anyway, that's, you know, we won, but listen to what happened." So I tell him what happened, he laughs. He brings the other partners in, "Tell them what happened, Verda." I tell them what happened, they laugh. And I'm like, "We need to make a complaint, we need to find this guy." And they were like, "No, we don't need to do any of that. When you walked in that room and the way you performed said everything we could ever say with a complaint." And he said, "That's what you do. You show people excellence and you show it with grace." And I learned more in that one incident that I've used throughout my career than anything else. Read the room, do what you do it well, leave an impression, and then move on. You know?
Very good. And I remember when I first got my position, well, it wasn't long ago, 2022, I did something because they told me, my team, which was mostly men, they told me, "You have to make sure you don't come off as intimidating." And I was like, well, what does that mean exactly? Because I never heard that as I practiced law, or I never heard that and when I was C-suite for different companies, or I never heard that in the other businesses that I own. And he said, "You have to do things so that men don't feel intimidated around you in this position." And I said, "Well, I don't show any cleavage or anything." They're like, "No, not that." But of course, I learned what they meant. I really had no clue because I'd never heard this before at work. So what I did was, we have a conference room. Some of you have come to see me before. There's a conference room, and we have a conference table, and it's a long one. And I learned not to sit at the head. I don't sit at the head of the table. And I do it intentionally. From day one, I sat in another seat. So if somebody came to see me, they'll sit across from me. But I never sat at the head, and that was part of me being intentional, not to be intimidating to them. Another thing I do is I wear suits. But I was trained to always have a blazer when I was in law school. That's something they tell us as a 1L, you better have a blazer when you walk into anywhere you go when you're working. So I naturally wear suits. Some women, when I first got in, they'd say, "Why do you always have to dress like a male?" These are women I didn't know, they didn't know me. Well, they knew who I was, but they're not my friend. And I started thinking, well, why? No, on one hand, it's good to wear a suit. And on the other hand, they're saying it's a negative thing to wear a suit. What am I supposed to do? I literally was like, what am I supposed to do? I may have mentioned it to Miss Felicia before, who was my executive assistant. She's now our operations manager. And I said, you know what, the heck with it. I'm wearing what I want to wear, and I want to wear a suit. And what I did is I started wearing blouses and set up the button-ups, so they used to wear button-ups. But I did that in law practice too. But anyway, reading the room is important, making sure that you figure out what you need to do in your career to be where you need to be. It's not an answer for everybody. Some people do it great. I look at people in Atlanta, and they go to work with dresses on and splits up to here and showing all their curves, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can never do my job dressed like that. But it works in different places. My job, I dress like this, and it works for me. All right, so we're getting to the last question here because we're getting, right at 10:30. So this is the last question, and it's a fun question. This is a fun, well, I'm gonna ask 2 questions in one, but they're fun and they're really easy, okay? Because I have 2. So one of them is, we're gonna have a little fun with this one, and as we celebrate our strengths, what would you say is your superpower? And do you have a favorite superhero? And also, give a little bit of an encouraging word before you pass the mic to the women out here who may be facing their own challenges and their own journey, so you can help encourage them along the way. So I'll remind you, because I know I've been a lot. So I wanted to make sure we got to the last question, but also I want a superpower question too. So superpower, hero, encouraging word.
Okay, so this is off the cuff, so forgive me. So I would think my superpower is my ability to be a friend to all. Like, I just have that ability to be a friend to everybody. Some people are like, how is that your friend? I'm like, because I just love people. So I think that would be Dora the Explorer. Dora's so kind, she's so kind. She loves everybody, she's always helping, but she explores, and so I'm Dora the Explorer. And what I would say to each of you all, that thing that moves you, that thing that you feel passionate about, that gives you the strength to get up in the morning, that makes you feel purposeful, do that. Whatever that is. And don't deny yourself that. This life that we live, and I can say this now because I'm probably older than everybody on this panel. This life that we live is like a vapor. It really is. I mean, like, I can remember some outfits I wore in high school and middle school like it was yesterday. And now I'm getting to the latter part of my life. And I am so fortunate that I always knew my why. And I never stopped pursuing my why, despite all the different career paths I've taken. And because of that, I've lived in my purpose. You don't want to go through this life and not live in your purpose and just do a job because you get paid. Even if you do that, find that thing that moves you and that makes you feel like this is the reason why I was born. And do that. You owe that to yourself. You can't love the people in your life the way you need to love them if you're not loving yourself enough to move in your passion. That's my prayer for each of you all. Because if you do that, at the end of your life, whenever that might be, whether it's young or old, it can be well with your soul. And that's what I always say. When I leave this place, I want to have done all the things I feel like I was born to do. And when I do that, it is well with me whenever that day comes. And I want you all to be able to say that.
So my superpower, I would say, is resilience. I think since I was born with my hand, being a physician, female physician, Indian physician, coming from an immigrant family, resilience is huge. I feel like I've been pushed down a lot in my life, and not physically, this is by myself, but I've been able to stand up and use that to power through. Like, use that fire. I tell my sister, I tell that to my family, use that fire that pushed you down and push you forward. Use that fire. And my superhero kind of goes along with that is Michelle Obama. I love Michelle. I read her books, and she kind of inspired me to think that, yes, she was also an attorney. She went to law school. She was double majored. And she was like, how am I supposed to be the first lady? And, my husband is a president, and I'm getting rid of all my goals, and I'm supposed to have the kids. And she made it happen. She's like, he wants to go to workout class, I'm gonna go to workout class. If he wants to do this, I'm gonna make the best of being a first lady. And heck yeah, she did. So Michelle Obama is definitely one of my superheroes. And to leave with one quote for you guys is, take everything at a day at a time. You'll face challenges in your life. You'll face family health issues. You'll face your own health issues. You'll face challenges with work, with friends, with family. Life is just life. But taking it a day at a time and thinking positively, you will reach that goal.
So I feel like my superpower is not quite as inspirational as theirs, but I think I have an incredible BS meter, right? So I think that works really well for me. So don't come to me and tell me something that's not the the truth is I'm gonna know it, right? I'm gonna know it and write off. And so, and to that point, I think if I look at my superhero, I would probably say Wonder Woman, not because of the outfit, that's not gonna be for me. I did appreciate the tiara and the bracelets, those were pretty fabulous, but I loved her lasso, which was the lasso of truth, right? And so I'd really like to have one of those for when my yes leader fails me. And maybe that, clear jet would be pretty helpful too. So, I just really thought about that. I really do think I like her now. So my words of wisdom to this group are, take every opportunity that's given to you. And, sometimes you don't know what that opportunity will lead to. Sometimes it will help you decide who you want to be, where you want to go, and that's great. And sometimes it helps you decide who you don't want to be or where you don't want to go, and that's equally important. And so that's something that I try to do across my entire career, and I think it's what has helped me get to where I am today, because I was exposed to a lot of things, but I found out very quickly I didn't want to be in accounting or IT. Those weren't for me. But I knew that I wanted to be able to change lives, and so in my job I get to get up every day and change lives, and so that's pretty important. And to your point, you have a long life to live, hopefully, and so find something that you're passionate about, that you want to get up every morning and do. And I told my daughter this from a very young age: you have a long life to live. Make sure that you get up every day and you love what you do. And then hopefully also you can support yourself, because one day your dad and I are going to cut you off.
I think my superpower would be gift of gab. I do love to talk. If you've met me, if I have interviewed you, we talk a lot. But I think it's my superpower because it allows me to be relatable and to talk with people. And sometimes I think in news, people are really, really stuffy. If you've met me, I'm probably running out of interviews. So give me a second because I have a mom bladder. I'm probably being way too open. But honestly, the gift of gab makes you relatable, and it kind of starts breaking down those barriers when we walk in guarded. I think if I'm looking, what's the next one? The next one is your superhero, super person. I think my superhero would be Mrs. Incredible from The Incredibles. She has like the long, stretchy arms. I think the reason I pick her though is because I think she can do so much, and then you see her and she pulls it together as a mom. And so I feel like just where I'm at in my stage of life with working and raising kids, and I'm in school for my master's, it's a lot, while still trying to be an intentional friend, an intentional spouse, mother, and I think of Miss Incredible, and she has those long arms, and she's doing everything, and I aspire to do it all and hold it together, but honestly, we're not meant to look like we have it all together, and so this is me telling you I do not, but I think she's incredible as a superhero. My piece of advice for all of us, especially as women, I think we have to prove ourselves more sometimes, and that's a fact. But I would really encourage us as women and as people to be interruptible. And I know that sounds crazy in the sense of like, we are constantly going and we have tasks to do, we have homes to keep up with, jobs to do, families to feed. But I think when we think about it, you allow these moments of when you are interruptible to allow for genuine connection and genuine conversation. And I think we live in a world that is so incredibly isolated, and we're on our phones and we're doing our own things and we are checking off boxes. But when we look at it, I mean, we serve a God who sent his son here to be so interruptible, and he would pause what he was doing to help out people in need. And so I think if we all lived our life in the sense of like, hey, I'm going to pause because you just told me you're having a bad day. Maybe you're just my coworker, maybe you're my friend, but let me listen to you and give you my ear. Not that we need to talk. We don't need to use the gift of gab there. Listen, pause, and be interruptible. And I think if more of us were like that, I think it would open doors. It would break down barriers. It would show people, hey, so-and-so is not as hard and tough as they seem. I actually had a really intentional conversation. They were there as a friend, not as, oh, I work with you, not as, hey, I'm trying to get a task done. But I think if we were interruptible, I think it would change a lot and make people pause and say, what's going on in that person's life that they're able to take a second and be there with me. And so I give that to you. Try it today. I know we're busy women, but if you could be interruptible, I think we would see a different world.
go back to what you said earlier, Mayor Patrick, we were talking about clothing. I'm gonna tell y'all a story. There's this woman I looked up to a lot early in my career. And I say early, she was head of tourism in Macon, and it's cherry blossom time, right? So what are we all doing? We're putting her pink, and you know, if you, I mean, I ate pink tortilla chips last night. Everything is pink right now. So she wore a lot of pink to represent our community. She was all of maybe 5'1", so she's a tiny lady, but wore her pink, was just pageant perfect in so many ways, presented herself so well. Again, I looked up to her. I was very young and new to my career, but she kept a black suit in her closet at work. And if she was gonna have a tough meeting with county officials, she would get the black suit out and put it on to go to City Hall. And I always heard the legend of the black suit with her. And finally got to witness it in real life, where the mayor at the time did something to push back. It was involving funding and that sort of thing in another festival, and all of a sudden here she comes in that black suit to our meeting at City Hall. And I watched all 5'1" of her pretty much climb up on the conference table, point her finger and say, "You're out of your mind." So there was another word in there. And it was kind of like we were all, but I just remember that being one of those moments, not saying to point your finger at the mayor and say this kind of thing, but man, that was cool to witness. It was so, like, I keep a black jacket and a few things handy, and I'm just waiting for my moment where I mean, it's okay to be intimidating every now and then, right? Like, I just want to feel that moment. So I'm telling y'all a story, and I feel like part of my superpower is telling stories. I tell the story of our communities. I tell the story of people. People. It's not location. It's people. And when I'm able to tell stories of people, I'm able to facilitate connection. So I'd say that real superpower for me is facilitating connection by knowing each other's stories and how we all are connected. With that, I would say that my superhero is actually on this panel, and she's going to be really pissed that I call her out on this, but it is Justice Colvin over there. But let me tell you, she's got an incredible story, and she believes in people's stories. And I'm not kidding when I say this. Like, this is somebody I am honored to be able to text every now and then when I'm having a bad day and get that encouragement. But watching her get sworn in as the trailblazer she was at the state capitol, it wasn't just that moment. It was looking around the room and seeing all the people who looked up to her, including her beautiful children who are grown, and hearing what actually it got me more. Her daughter Taylor is amazing and is going to have her own story in her own, but watching her son Weston look up to his mama and remembering when she was a single mom mowing her grass with a broken lawnmower because that's all they had at the time. Those are the things that make you want to be a better person, and you want to have that young man looking up to you and knowing that you've changed the world. Find your story. It is part of my advice, but you find your story by knowing your unique talent, or discovering your unique talent and making it the driving force of your life. And that goes back to what she said too about knowing your purpose. Sorry, she's gonna kill me later. But it's Women's History Month, and we all know really it's Women's Her Story Month. And we're all, I don't like to say she rose, I'm like, it's her rose. It's her rose. So thank you, Mayor Patrick, for that opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. This is great. And I'm going to say 1 minute of things, and then we're going to take a group picture. But then I want you all to get some snacks. If you want to ask questions, we're going till 11, so we'll have some minutes for questions, okay? All right, so I'm gonna answer mine in a minute. My superpower, I think, will be my ability to relate to everyone. I really try, I have a lot of empathy, and I try to relate to any person that I'm around, no matter who they are. If they're a homeless person who's trying to find somewhere to get a few dollars to buy whatever they buy at the convenience store, or if it's someone who runs a state or whatever, I try to find my place to connect with anybody. My superhero, well, my team will probably laugh when I say this, and you all might laugh too. So I have two. Well, the one I relate most to is gonna be Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Because I feel like I slay vampires all the time. Actually, I say I slay giants. These are the naysayers who say I can or won't, or how dare I. So I have to slay them, and then they know I can, because I have to prove them wrong. But then I have the Wolverine. I love Wolverine. He's a male, but still, he always gets beat up, but then he always heals and comes back stronger, right? And he wins at the end, and everybody loves Wolverine. So I love the Wolverine. A piece of advice is similar to what someone already mentioned. As we go through life, we set goals for ourselves. You might even set New Year's resolutions. But whatever it is that you set your eye on something specific. My advice to you would be, make sure you're flexible sometimes in what you set your goal to, because you don't know what's gonna come your way. You may have thought that you were supposed to do one thing, and then whoever you believe in, I believe in God, He will put something in your hat, and you're so much bigger than you would ever imagined, whatever your career is. There are plenty of entrepreneurs in this space, plenty of CEOs in this space, plenty of supervisors in here, bosses in their own right. Don't limit yourself. Keep an open mind as you continue your journey. Because if you say, like, I remember I was upset with my mom one time when she was offered it wasn't a director position. She worked at Madison Pharmacy, but it was like the lead person that wasn't a pharmacist, because she's not a pharmacist. And she said, I want that job. And I said, why not? She was like, I don't want that responsibility. But that's who everybody wanted her because of how she performed at work. And she just didn't want it for herself. And she looks back now and she's like, I probably should have tried that. But she was so stuck on, I want to work from this to this, I don't want those headaches, I'm out of here. Same with my father, he tried that too, like, I don't know, but he was the best for the job. So he finally took the flight chief position, and now they wanted to go higher, and he was like, nope, I'm out of here, I'm retiring. But the point of the matter is, don't limit where you can go as you're on your journey. Keep an open eye, because you never know, your blessing, your moment may be something you never ever expected, because that's part of my story as a single mom. That's my story. So thank you all so much for being here. Surround yourself with strong women. Surround yourself with strong women who are where you're trying to be. And that's what I do, my friends. And here are some wonderful people who, some of them are already my friends, and if we're not friend level, we're gonna get on friend level because I'm already claiming you as a friend. So smile, and we're gonna take a photo because I know we have to go on about our day. And you all, there's some refreshments back there. You can come back and hear some questions for those who may have questions, okay? All right, so let's do a picture. Thank you all so much for being here. For those of you who may not stay until 11.
Way. 3, 2, 1. Smile. Can we do a funny picture now? Can we do a funny one? A power one. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, that was great. All right, thank you all for that. Good, good, good.